Welcome to News with a View, a Fat Cat production. It is June 30th, 2025. I'm your host, John A. Costa, and this is episode 92. Not much news going on in there, out in the news right now. But the scathing articles against Trump and everything labeled as opinion. And that's how the media gets to skew facts, is with opinions. And in one opinion poll today, and it was from USA Today, from Rex Hoopke, who is a Chicago Tribune reporter, and he sets out to everyone. In his little opinion, and just so you know that Rex Hoopke is like a comical writer, but nothing particularly funny or clever. It's not like the Onion or anything like that. This article can be read either from USA Today or via MSN, Chicago Tribune. I mean, he publishes that to a lot of people. But it might be one of the stupidest opinions I have read in months. And really, if the left wants to know why they lost in November and why they are facing the same fate in 2026, just read the thought process of Rex Hoopke's opinion. And so he starts, so it's with great thanks to the U.S. Supreme Court and its recent ruling that Maryland parents can opt their children out of any lesson that involves LGBTQ plus material. And he says, because of this, I don't want my children learning about Donald Trump, so I'm going to pull them out. Now, number one, Rex doesn't have any children that I know of. So, again, this is just his way of being clever. I don't know. He attempts to teach my children anything about Donald Trump, including the unfortunate fact that he is president of the United States, and place an unconstitutional burden on my First Amendment right to freely exercise my religion. So, Rex, if it's a joke, I'm not getting it. I don't think it is, because you are a very left-leaning political writer. Seen your other stuff before. But for starters, Rex, you always had the right to question anything your child is being taught in school. And if you do have children, have you ever questioned what they're being taught? Like I said, I don't even know if you have kids. I don't think you do. Basically, school has always been the place for learning, and as far as for sexual education, this is LGBTQ is all about sexual education. We as parents have the right to see and hear what material is used to teach our children. LGBTQ plus is not a learning subject for public schools, period. It's not. It has no place there. Yes, Donald Trump, I will get back to you. 2 o'clock, I start my show. It does not follow science and nature at all, and goes against the known natural order of mankind. LGBTQ goes against all that. You cannot have a continuing society if you can't mate. And yes, you could take a turkey baster and do whatever you're going to do, but that's still mating. And I do understand it is your right. You, as two adults, can cohabitate together, be a family together. You can do that. You have the right. Not saying you don't have the right. What I'm saying is that it doesn't have a place in school. Here's the fix, Rex. If you have children, send your child to a private school that holds your unscientific values and political values. Your politics is not a religious argument that can be tied to any infringement of your First Amendment rights. Can't be tied to it. So, your whole article, and it is a long article that you wrote, you hate Trump, and that is all your opinion showed. No logic, no science, just hate of the man Trump. This is why the Democrats will lose big again in 2026. You had Schumer today ripping, and as the liberals always say, whenever I see eviscerate, whenever I see an article written by anyone that uses the word eviscerate, I know it's a liberal, and I know that they're using, they don't understand what that word means, but that's all right. It's, they all get together and go, ooh, he used a big word, yay! Yay! He must be smart and know about everything. Now, I'd like, if you people want to, you can read Rex's article and his opinion. That's Rex Huppke, Huppke, Rex, and he can be found at R Huppke. That's RHUPPKE at usatoday.com. Now, if you reach out to Rex via email or however way you want to contact him, if that is your desire, I ask you to keep it decent and respectful. Remember, this is just an opinion piece. And I realize it's way skewed out there. But he is allowed to have his opinion, no matter how wrong it is. Yeah, Bob. I'm looking at you, Bob. That's Bob in New York. The best of best. I love Bob. Bob is a good person. His political beliefs is his political beliefs. And he's a stand-up guy. But this is such a ridiculous argument. And the argument that the left has made is that now anyone could go to school and argue any point to have their children not learn something. I'm going to tell you folks again, you always had that right to do that. This didn't give parents any greater rights. You could always do that. But the school didn't give a parent an opt-out. Now, if you want your child not to learn about Trump, sue the school. Get a lawyer, sue the school. File a class action lawsuit, and sue the school. Because that's what these parents did. They sued the school. And liberals, when someone takes their rights, oh, how the media, how the liberals hate that. How they hate you exercising your rights. Because it might go against what they believe. And yes, Bob, I am talking to you. The idea that you can go to school and get your child pulled out for anything. You can question the school on their teachings, and you can look at whatever their curriculum is and then make a decision whether you want your child to learn that. Or you could take your child out and put them into a private school that conforms to your beliefs. This was a silly argument for this writer. It was just, he was pandering to the mob. And I realize that's part of his job, but he really should use a little bit more common sense. There are bigger and better arguments to make about it than what he used. And I realize he might have been going to the ridiculous side to show that, well, if you can argue that, I can argue this. And I kind of get it, but you guys lost it, and you're not going to get that back for a long time, if ever you get that back. The agenda of the left was to infiltrate our schools, teach our children horrid things. Nothing, America is bad, America was always bad. No. We made mistakes, which we have amended. We are an experiment that keeps going. That I will agree with you on. And in experiments, sometimes you have failures and sometimes you have great successes. And you learn, not so much by your successes, but by your failures. And teaching our children that America is bad and that everything about America is a lie. What is your purpose in that? Well, to teach them about truth, and your truth is the truth, right? You're going to teach them how Columbus funded his exploration. You're going to explain that to them, right? You're going to explain to them how Spain and Portugal and England started the slave trade, right? You're going to explain that to them. The slave trade started in the 1400s, long before there was an America. You're going to teach them that, right? And do you know who took the most amount of slaves? I mean, if you're going to teach about history and you're going to sit there and say America is bad and everything is a lie that we teach our children, so you know, it was Spain who took the most amount of slaves. Okay? And where'd they ship them to? Cuba, Haiti, South America. Look it up. Look it up. And do you think that it was white people that went 12 miles into Africa to get these slaves? And we threw nets on them and captured them one by one as they went down to a stream? No. It was Arabs who went in there and captured the slaves and then sold them. It was the Muslims who captured the Africans and sold them into slavery. There weren't enough white people on the continent that could get into the jungle and grab Africans. So if you're going to teach history, teach it right and teach it correctly. So, all right, in another beautiful piece written by the left, and this is where I say the news can skew. All right? From the Daily Beast, which gets a lot of press in all the liberal media. Trump ignores funeral services for victim of MAGA madman. He was absent, noticeably absent from the funeral. Yeah. Yeah. But he did say that targeted shootings of the two Minnesota state lawmakers, actually four of them, but the murders of them, will not be tolerated in the United States, and vowed the shooter who carried out the brazen attack will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. All right? I apologize for the lawnmower. It's every other Tuesday. My neighbor gets their lawn done. I have mine done every Thursday. I don't wait. Trump also stated such horrific violence will not be tolerated in the United States of America. God bless the great people of Minnesota, a truly great place. God bless the victims and their families. So I would say that no one in the Trump administration has forgotten, as Pam Bundy said, that they will stand to take these people or persons, or actually it was a person. But now to get to the heart of the MAGA madman. Governor Walz appointment of Minnesota lawmaker shooting suspect to the advisory board. He was appointed by Tim Walz. This was a political assassin. There was no doubt about that. But Tim Walz put him into the position where he was at to become political and worked with these people. Now, did Tim Walz know that this guy would do that? Of course he didn't know that. But to say that this is a MAGA and the person who wrote this was Liam Akarki. which is Liam, Liam, dot ARCHACKI at thedailybeast.com, all one word there. And I'll have these right up over here. You know, this is what happens when you're popular and you go online. You get all these messages. And I try to block them and get them, but people online looking at me right now are sending me messages. I should be turning that off, but I am expecting an important message. So this is how the news can manipulate the facts. Everything that this guy said is the truth. Now, this wasn't an opinion piece. He wrote an article. And it isn't that Trump ignored the funeral, just did not attend it. And there is a difference. You know, I get upset with it because it takes away from true journalism. And we've gotten away from that. That though, I mean, listen, you always had journalism that was sensationalized, and skewed to certain eyeballs because that's where the money was at. Those are the people that, you know, paid a nickel for the paper. Extra, extra. Madman roams street. You know, I mean, but this is, you know, what sells. And, you know, sex sells. You know, you're looking at something, you see a beautiful woman. And I'm speaking for myself. Leave it at that. I'm speaking for myself. You see a beautiful woman in an ad and you go, oh, what's that about? That make me a bad person? No. Makes me a consumer. News is consumed like you would a meal. You know what you like. You know what you don't like. When you can figure that out, then you can really start breaking the news down into what it is. Some people like salt, some people like pepper, some people like nothing. Some people like both. Whatever floats your boat. As long as it's legal, you have at it. But I will say that the true threat in the last 4 years to our democracy was the Democrats. They wanted you locked out of your homes. Well, locked in your homes. You couldn't go to church. You couldn't buy food when you wanted to. You couldn't go over people's houses. You had to get an experimental inoculation if you wanted to keep your job in a lot of places. You had special numbers to call if you saw a neighbor doing something. People got arrested. The biggest threat to this country was the hoax of COVID. COVID was real, but the treatment of it, yeah, no. The government seized on it. People in power seized on it. They got write-in votes. They got everything. I mean, they played that very well. And they thought they could play that hand again. American people said, nope, ain't doing that again. Ain't doing that again. We're not going to buy into that, Dr. Fauci. I don't blame Trump for what he did. I didn't blame Biden in whole for his reaction because he was being puppeted. Presidents aren't scientists. They don't know. The only president that we had that had any knowledge of really important things was Jimmy Carter, who was Mr. Nuclear. He understood physics. Didn't like his politics, but I will not take his brains and his conviction away from him. Smart, he was a smart guy. Naive, but smart. All right, from the Associated Press. I'm giving a lot of call-outs today. As I went through there and I go, there wasn't much news and you just saw all this stuff floating around. And I'm like, what? What are they writing about? All right, states brace for impact as Trump's big, beautiful bill nears completion in Congresses. So, what happens now? President Donald Trump's big bill to cut taxes and reduce federal spending on some social safety net programs. And see how they wrote that? On some safety net programs. Now, I don't like to see kids taken off of Medicaid or Medicare, and that's not really going to happen. The big changes in Medicare are going to be illegals on it, and what is classified as an illegal. All right? So, the states are preparing for large implications for this budget. So, Tuesday marks the start of new budgets in 46 states. Though some legislators are still working, most already have adjourned and finalized their spending plans without knowing whether federal funding will be cut, and if so, by how much. So, of course, you start this process way in like June of last year, and you start working it up until, December, and then you go back and forth with the budget. No, yes, yes, no. Leave it in, leave it out. Take it in, put it out. And you get a budget. And hey, we're going to have a deficit. We got to float bonds. We got to do something. But this is what we project. That's what a budget is, just a projection. A surge in federal aid and state tax revenue during the coronavirus pandemic led to booming budgets and historic cash surpluses in many states. We gave money, when I say we, the federal government gave our money to states to say, stay afloat, keep people working, keep people employed, work from home, but they can do it here. And a lot of those states had already budgeted to pay people, whether they were working or not. So they had that money. This was not, this was the fallacy, and this is what bothered the hell out of me, is the states already budgeted that money. They budgeted for bus drivers. They budgeted for everything. Now, the flip side of some of that is that if no one was working, no one was paying the $1.25, $1.75, $2.50 fare. So the states needed money. But lo and behold, in a lot of places, people were still using mass transit, and mass transit was working, and they were collecting fares. You know, but police departments, they don't make money. Fire departments don't make money. The people working at DMV, they bring in money. But if they're not there to collect it, they were still taking money in through other means. So a lot of states ended up with a lot of cash. And that was supposed to be used for COVID, but no one ever checked it. Much like USAID, it just went out one way and no one cared. Not my problem. You told me to write the check, I wrote the check, I sent it out. I know they cashed it. What they used it for, don't know, don't care. Not my problem. You had states with huge budget surpluses. California had a huge surplus. What'd they do with it? Didn't give it for COVID. What happened to those places? Look at their streets. Look at companies that are moving out. Look at Chicago. New York. How about Philadelphia? How many businesses are saying, let's move to Philadelphia? Here's an idea. Let's open a business in the heart of San Francisco. Right? What did those states do with their money? What did Nancy Pelosi and Waters do with the money? What did Schiff do to make sure the money got spent the way it was supposed to be spent? Right? Right? Schumer. Green. All of them. So now they're saying, we don't know if we're going to get money in from the federal government. Yet New York State decided to give $50 million for legal aid, not for those documented, to undocumented illegals to fight deportation. Not documented people. Trump's not going after them unless they've committed a serious crime or a crime. Any crime I will label as serious. Different than an infraction. When you have a motor vehicle thing, as long as it's, not a vehicular homicide or something of that nature, or reckless driving, which then goes to another level. The rest are all infractions, which are different. So you're going to have a lot of states that are going to have to cut back on their giveaway programs just to keep their head up above water. And here's a novel idea. Raise your taxes. If you're eating ribeye steaks when you're only making money that you should only be eating hot dogs, well, you're going to have to squeeze people for more money. Start squeezing your people. How about that? You have a New York mayor who is, he's not mayor yet, and I doubt he will be mayor. But you have a politician like you do in Chicago who says white people should pay more. People that live in nicer neighborhoods, aka white neighborhoods, they should be paying higher taxes than anyone else, and they should be penalized for being successful. How do you feel about that, America? You think that's a good idea? Do you think that's democratic? That he's running as a Democrat. Do you think that's democratic? That the color of your skin should make you pay more or less? Because I got some ideas too. You ain't gonna like him. But I could have ideas too. And that is the problem with the socialist, and they call themselves social democrats. They're communists. That is the issue. They're about taking away from that person and giving it to that person. And that's their idea of social equity. Not equality, equity. We've already settled the problem that we're all equal. Right? Well, that wasn't good enough. Now, if I have $75 and they got 20, they want to make sure I only have $37.50 and he has $37.50. But then they'll turn around and go, but he doesn't have to pay anything more for that, but you have to pay 20% more for what you're doing because you're white. Yeah, that's what they want. That's what this mayor wants in New York. That's what that mayor is trying to do in Chicago. Lori Lightfoot screwed that city up for years to come. For years and years and years to come, Chicago and New York will become the new Chicago. You're going to have businesses fleeing New York. You're going to have the stock exchange move out of New York. They will move to Dubai, Because they're a stable government. Money likes stability. That's what made us great. We stood by our dollar. We stood behind it. We did everything. Now that's gone. And they're going to say, well, gee, that didn't work for all of us. No, that didn't work for about 11% of you because you didn't want it to work. Why are Chinese successful? Why are the Latinos successful? I'm waiting. Yeah. The truth can be ugly sometimes, but you have to accept it. Keep smoking your dope. Keep being the gangster. That has worked out great. That has worked out great for you. Yeah. Pushing sports figures. How many professional football players are there? Baseball players, boxers. How many compared to the individuals out there? How about pushing lawyers and doctors and accountants and policemen and firemen and garbage men and people that work, carpenters, plumbers, drivers? How about that? How about pushing that? Can't do that. Everyone has to be a rapper. Everyone has to have a thing. You sell a phony experience. You sell a phony experience. And you might want things to be that way, but they're not. And then you tell them, well, that's what it should be like, but you don't have to work for it. You don't have to go to school for it. You don't have to get a real education. You don't have to do any of that. Because McDonald's should pay you $50,000 a year. Yeah. See how that works out for you. All right. Another opinion poll from the New Republic. God, another one that I don't like. Devastating poll shows everyone hates Trump's big, beautiful bill. No, not everyone. Not everyone. Most people don't even know how many pages it is. Most people have no idea what's even contained in that big, beautiful bill. So to say everyone hates it, no one asked me. They could have said, hey, everyone hates it, but this guy in South Carolina, John A. Costa, he likes it. So when I see stuff like everyone, you already know that it's a lie, that it's skewed. And I mean, it's just amazing. And it's CNN. who was out there saying that Omar Jimenez, everyone hates it. Trump's gargantuan budget and tax bill was widely unpopular with the voters. What voters? No one voted on this. Widely unpopular. Trump won. I don't get where they come up with these narratives, and it's so wrong that you can't look at it and you can't believe them. You can't say, oh well, they're using this, or they're taking this angle of approach to it, and they're not. They're just outright lying to you. Outright lying to you. And that's unacceptable from the media. Trump can lie. Politicians lie. Oh no. Oh no, a politician that lies. But where we relied on the truth was from our media. Now, was it always truthful? No. No. But there was always some news outfits out there that did report the news and just left it at that. So when I see this stuff, it angers me. It gets me mad. And it got me to the point to do this type of podcast. No, I love hearing myself talk. And it does give me enjoyment when I educate Bob in New York. And some people in my family who just blurt things out, and you're like, that is wrong. Let me explain to you why and show you why, and then they get mad. But that's the way it is. I will, very rare, it happens to all of us, will get emotionally attached. But in politics, and you can get emotionally attached to religion because it's faith-based. And we can argue all day how many angels can dance on this top. We could do that all day long. But when it comes to the Constitution, when it comes to this, I knew that was going to happen. State rights in the Union. And state rights come about when the rights in the Constitution are not there. So, this is the foundation. This comes second. So, whatever this says can reflect back into a state's constitution, but the state's constitution can never counter the United States Constitution. Remember I said you could have two umbrellas, and I think of the Constitution as a roof, and I see state rights as an umbrella you use in your house in case your roof leaks. That if it's not covered in the United States Constitution, the states can take it up. And that's what makes everything. So state rights take over where the federal Constitution doesn't cover it. And that's how the Constitution works. And people don't understand it. You should know how your rights work. All right, with that, I'm going to say goodnight. You know my motto: give to charity. Charity begins at home. You pick the charity. You make sure they're good. Don't become a victim trying to help victims. Give to a local food bank if you can. 4 cans, 2 cans, whatever you can. Get it, whatever you can, and feel comfortable with, give. Every little bit helps. Say a prayer. Prayer does work. Again, Chris, can't say it enough to you. Congratulations. Danielle, Paul, Rowan, Cannoli. I'll give you a call this week sometime. It's been pretty hectic. We'll get to it. And with that, I'm going to fade to black.